Hey everybody, and welcome to LordGXK TV, where I like to delve into all things horror. In this video, we're going to be talking about a movie that came out some time ago, but it left a really big impact with me, mainly because of its supernatural undertones. Any horror movie that has supernatural undertones, supernatural vibes, I love them, because supernatural for me represents the unknown. You're like why is this happening? How is this happening? You know, like how did all this come about? It's not like a slasher film where you got somebody running around in a mask or some, you know, deranged lunatic going around just knifing people. All right, no, supernatural movies, there's always something happening that you just don't know about. You know, like, how did it come to this? You know, what are the origins of how this particular entity came about? And that's what I like, and that's what we're gonna get into in this movie right here. It Follows. It Follows is a movie that came out around 2014, 2015, and when it first released, I was like right there. I seen it upon release, and I tell you, that movie left a really big impact with me. Like I say before, mainly because of the supernatural undertones and the unknown. No one knows anything, I mean anything, about this entity whatsoever. I mean, the only thing we know is that the person that the entity is following, if that person has sex with someone else, the entity then follows that person. But if that person doesn't sleep with anyone else and the entity kills that person, the entity then turns around and goes back to the other person that gave it to them and continues down the line to whoever it's gonna be going after. That's all we know. That is all we know about this entity and what it does. So I have some theories on where this entity came from, how it was brought about, and a way that the entity can finally be put to rest. Of course, these are just theories, nothing set in stone. The people that made it, they the only ones that know what they want to do with it moving forward. But right now, I'm just gonna have fun with this theory and put it out there for the world to see, and see if you all can come up with something and we can all talk about it and go from there. The movie It Follows the main character, this girl named Jay. Jay has a boyfriend. Her boyfriend sleeps with her. Little does she know, he has the entity following him. And you'll see this throughout the film, where you'll basically catch these things on your second and, you know, third, fourth time watching, which is why I say, you know, I watched it like over 10 times. And that's the beauty of a movie like this, is that when you go back and watch it again, you get to catch things that you didn't see the first time, and it makes it even better. Those are the best horror movies ever. That's why I say supernatural, always the best way to go, because you get to see all these little supernatural nuances that you didn't catch the first time around, right? So her boyfriend gives it to her, and when he does give it to her, he explains it to her in devastating fashion. I'm telling you, that the way he explained it to her, yeah, that would have got anybody's attention, right? So he explains to her how everything's supposed to work. Well, throughout the whole film, she's running here, running there. Finally, she gives up and tries to get someone to help her. Well, this guy, Greg, he decides to be, you know, the knight in shining armor to try to, you know, help her get rid of this thing. But guess what? Doesn't work for him either. And by the time they get to the end of the movie, the entity is still lurking about, which I think it is anyways. I don't want to give away the ending, but the entity is pretty much still lurking about. Now, a lot of people try to say stuff like, well, you can run here, you can run there, you can do this and do that. Well, yeah, true, but you can only do it for so long. And there's something in this film too that lets me know that you can't even lock it away. You can't even put it in an area where it cannot, you know, reach you or anything. It's gonna find you at some point in some way. It's gonna find a way to get out, and I'm gonna show you here in this scene. Here in this scene, they thought they had it cornered. They had it in the pool. They had shot it and everything, and it's bleeding out in the water. Well, that didn't work, because later on, not too long, the entity is out. Well, you're like, well, how did it get out? Well, this is the thing about supernatural entities. Supernatural entities can, you know, transcend space and time. They live forever. If something lives forever, it cannot be locked away, right? So you look at all these different movies, The Exorcist, you know, even Jeepers Creepers. There's like always some kind of way where these supernatural entities, they can find a way to transcend space and time and live for, you know, hundreds and hundreds or even thousands of years. And it's the same thing with this entity too. This entity's probably been around for thousands of years, and you can see right here when it bled out in the water, probably went down a drain pipe, oozed back up through the ground, formed itself back together, and continued pursuit of Jay and whoever else is gonna get who she sleeps with, right? So let's get into where this entity actually came from. That's right, witchcraft. Yep, witchcraft. The entity in It Follows, in my opinion and my theory, is the result of a curse gone wrong. All right, so I'm gonna do my best to like paint a picture, or I guess you could say like a short story, very short story, because I don't want this to go on too much longer. So let's say the time period is like medieval days. Think Game of Thrones, that era. So let's say this woman and her husband, they're married, things are going good. All of a sudden the husband's like cheating. All right, infidelity overload. He's going around sleeping with women all over the land. Okay, so the wife gets tired of it. Finally, she's at the last straw. She wants to get back at him for good. She goes to see the local witch on the edge of town, how these things normally go, and she says, look, I want to get back at my husband. I'm done with him. I'm tired of him. I want revenge. So the witch is like, hey, I got just the thing for you. She gives her instructions on how to do a curse, similar to the way they did it in Pumpkinhead. You know, the witch, she doesn't do all the work. She need a little bit of work from the wife, because the wife is the one that wants it done. So guess what? You got to get your hands dirty too. So she tells her, after you do this, the next woman he sleeps with, she's gonna die. Then he's gonna die. And the lady's like, okay, I'm cool with that. But guess what? She doesn't tell her the details on how they're gonna die. She just says they're gonna die, right? So it happens. The man goes off, sleeps with a woman. Guess what? That woman turns up dead. But before the entity can come back and kill the husband sleeps with his wife. And guess what? The wife is like, oh hell no, you're not sleeping with me. But he does anyway, forces himself on her, and guess what? The entity is now coming for the wife. So the wife is like, oh my God, what do I have to do now? So she goes back, talks to the witch. Witch starts laughing and say, well, you sleep with him, it'll go back to him and kill him. So the wife does that, this time willingly. Okay, entity goes, kills the husband, right? Next thing you know, it's coming back to her. So she goes back to the witch, say, look, well, now it wants me. And the witch is like, oh, well, then you know, every person you sleep with, that's where it goes. Okay, if he hadn't slept with you, well, it would have killed him and went back into the ground or wherever it came from. But unfortunately, he slept with you. Now it's bouncing all over the place. So now we're here in the 21st century. It all started with the wife. Well, it started with the husband, then went to the wife, and now the wife starts sleeping around. And as you can see in the movie, this is how it goes. But there's a big but. Well, how do you get rid of it? Well, I got a theory on that too. I believe the way they can get rid of it is the person that the entity is coming for has to perform some sort of ritualistic suicide. Once that person performs that ritualistic suicide, that will then cut the entity off from killing that person, because the person is now dead. But they did it the right way, so now the entity can go back to where it came from in peace. End of the curse, end of the story. I think that would be a great way to like end this franchise if it went on for like 4 or 5 different films. You know, every single movie they would find out a little bit more on where this entity came from. I see so much potential that this movie could have had if they kind of just kept with the story, kept it going. Every film just reveal a little bit at a time. You know, like maybe in the next film they get to about like what is the entity. Then in the 3rd film they say, well, we kind of know where it came from, but you know, maybe let's talk about how to get rid of it. And then they try to talk about how to get rid of it. Finally they take a trip over to Europe in the ancient land, and all of a sudden find out that, you know, oh, it's in a book. Look, check here, you know, boom. They find out all this stuff. And by the time you get to the 5th movie, they figure out how to get rid of it. Someone sacrifices themselves, perform the ritualistic suicide, boom, end of the movie or end of the franchise. But hey, it's probably not gonna happen. I don't even think they're planning on doing any sequels to this, but it is fun to toss around theories and everything. So you all tell me what you think about the entity in the movie It Follows. Drop it in the comments, and let's see, you know, what we can get going about this, because I'm telling you, this entity, the theories on this can go 2,000 different ways. Right? So thank you for watching, and I'll see you all very soon on the next one. Bye.